This is a peptide, a weird blue glowing peptide. And inside it is something your body already makes, something that declines as we get older, something that could help solve a $163 billion problem, skin aging. But that's not even the best part, because when I first learned about it, I dismissed it as just some other overhyped wrinkle peptide. But I was wrong. And by the end of this rabbit hole, I decided to inject the stuff into my own body. Because the same biology that protects skin from aging might protect a whole lot more. Let me explain. When I first started digging through the weird wild world of peptides, I almost skipped this entirely. It's called GHK-Cu, or the copper peptide.
The copper peptide.
GHK-Copper.
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 GHK-Copper is a naturally occurring peptide.
GHK-Copper.
GHK-Cu is a copper peptide.
GHK-Cu, aka copper peptide.
And at first glance, almost all of the strongest evidence seemed to be about skincare. And honestly, that's just not what I care most about. I'm a guy, I'm 30, wrinkles aren't exactly keeping me up at night. Although my mom and her friends practically tackled me to try to get their hands on this stuff after I showed them the data. So there's a non-zero chance I'm doing this against my will. But I was wrong. The thing that changed my mind weren't the wrinkle data. It was the biology underneath. And the deeper I dug, the stranger the story became. So whether you're here to reduce wrinkles by 28% or simply explore some of the wildest science at the frontier of wound healing and longevity, come with me. I think you'll be surprised where this rabbit hole ends. Literally thousands of genes involved in aging, repair, and recovery. It was actually discovered by Nobel Prize winner Stanley Cohen, which together are known as the Wolverine stack, which was the year after the bombings. And then my knee gave out. But the amount falls as you age, dramatically. Okay, over the rest of this video, here's what I promise you. I'm gonna show you science so undeniably fascinating, it makes the biology of skin exciting even for a 30-year-old guy who couldn't care less about wrinkles. We will look at randomized control trials and venture into the biological frontier, where researchers are asking whether this strange little copper peptide can reshape massive swaths of our gene expression, our DNA expression patterns, and finally, I will explain why I ended up sticking a needle into my own butt and injecting glowing blue stuff like I was a wannabe Avenger. Stick around, because at some point in this video, I will point you towards resources. Not because you need to buy anything, but because the deeper I explore this frontier of human health with you, the more I realize a lot of you want to explore it alongside me. But let's begin. What is this peptide? GHK-Cu is basically four things holding hands. 3 amino acids, glycine, histidine, lysine, that's the GHK, and amino acids are just tiny building blocks your body uses to make all the proteins you're made of. So there's 3 amino acids, GHK, plus 1 copper atom. That's the Cu. Put them together and you get GHK-Cu. And that binding is where the blue comes from, if you were wondering, because loose copper looks gold, or copper, I guess, is its own color. Wrapped up in this peptide, though, copper grabs light in a way that makes it blue, kind of like that blue and gold dress that was viral a few years ago. Anyway, this color is basically a signal that the copper is being bound and held. And hold on to that idea, because copper being held turns out to be the foundation of our story. And here's another thing. Your body builds this all by itself, but the amount falls as you age, dramatically. In your 20s, levels sit around 200 nanograms per milliliter. But by your 60s, levels have fallen by 60% or more to around 80, and they keep declining. And that drop in GHK-Cu lines up almost exactly with your skin getting thinner, weaker, and wounds healing slower. Now pause. I won't condescend to you. I know you know correlation is not causation, so two things falling together doesn't prove one causes the other. Ice cream sales and drownings both rise in the summer, but ice cream doesn't cause drownings. So hold on to that skepticism. It's good. I want to encourage it, and we will come back to whether this is cause or causation in a moment. But to even begin to answer that, we have to understand something genuinely weird about copper itself, and that brings us to the copper conundrum. Copper is essential. You would die without it. Copper, the element, sits at the core of dozens of proteins throughout our body. For example, one copper-based protein, lysyl oxidase, builds and reinforces collagen, the scaffolding that keeps our skin firm. Another is a frontline antioxidant enzyme, and yet another lives inside mitochondria and is 100% essential for mitochondrial energy production. helping turning the food you eat and the air you breathe into energy so you don't immediately die. So copper builds you, it protects you, it powers you, it is essential for your life, but there's a catch. Loose copper is actually very dangerous. A free copper atom is chemically reckless. Let it wander around and it starts tearing up your DNA and your cell membranes. It's highly oxidative. Basically, it rusts you from the inside. Now, if you want a little analogy, I'm a giant nerd, so I think about it like dragons from Game of Thrones. Immensely powerful, dragons are. They're useful when controlled, but let them loose and, well, you know what happens. So how does your body solve this genuine problem? It needs copper to be delivered, but it can never let copper just travel alone. The body's solution is beautiful. It never lets copper flow free, or almost never. It straps copper, the atom, into a molecular escort. The GHK, those 3 amino acids, those are the escort. They fold around copper like a cage, and that cage lets copper move safely through the body to tissues without damaging things along the way. Hold on to that image, that cage, because it's the entire difference between medicine and poison. Here's the body's brilliant solution. Think about it as what actually happens when you take a little bit of copper and put it on your skin. Camera can get this. What happens? Rub it in. Basically, the GHK-Cu gets into your skin. Then the cell pulls it inside into a little pocket, a little invagination. That pocket then blebs into the inside of a cell. And here's the elegant part. This is what's happening in my hand right now. That pocket is tuned to the exact right pH, the right acidity to pop the GHK cage open and release the copper right next to the machines that need it. Or if you want another analogy, you can tell I like analogies, it's like the cell is carefully handling copper like a thermoelectric generator to power some important space exploration technology. It's powerful, you need it, but if you drop it, boom. Hopefully that landed, but if not, the idea is GHK-Cu carefully hand delivers the package where it needs to go, and it doesn't let go until it's safe. And then, once that copper reaches its destination, the effects start stacking up. Then what happens? When the copper is delivered, 3 things happen at once. The collagen machinery ramps up, locking new collagens into firm, stable fibers. Antioxidant machineries ramp up as well, neutralizing damage in the skin, and the energy machinery in your mitochondria starts running cleaner, and healthy skin needs energy too. So when talking about the biological impacts of GHK-Cu on the human body, let's start with the part you can literally see. Skin. There are actually multiple placebo-controlled trials on GHK-Cu for skin. For example, a 2002 trial in 71 women used GHK-Cu twice per day for 12 weeks. What happened? Skin got denser and thicker. Fine lines and wrinkles went down compared to a placebo. And a later study pointed to the same results: thicker skin, fewer wrinkles, and more skin cell renewal. And a 2023 trial reported collagen density using GHK-Cu improved 28% after 3 months. And this fits in with the mechanisms we described perfectly. The mechanisms in human data line up. Now, here's where I want to take a little pivot and get a little bit personal and admittedly anecdotal. Like I said, skin aging isn't exactly something that keeps me up at night as a 30-year-old guy, but I do love interesting science. So when I earlier wrote a newsletter on GHK-Cu, diving into the science, I figured it would be a fun niche topic. But again, I was wrong. I really should have foreseen what happened next, because my audience is about half women and skews over 45. So the response was a tsunami of, give it to me, gimme, gimme, gimme. And it wasn't just online. My mom read the newsletter, discovered GHK-Cu, and promptly told all her friends, and suddenly I had what I felt like an army of suburban Boston women marching towards my house with metaphorical torches and pitchforks, determined to raid my fridge to get this peptide. And had I not shared a little with them, I genuinely do not think my front door would have survived. And I'll honestly just disclose, they love it. You can understand why they didn't want to share their before and after pictures to hundreds of thousands of people online, and I'll protect their privacy. However, it aligns perfectly with what we see in the data we just reviewed. Typically, people report a glow effect on their skin after about 4 weeks. Then wrinkles start to reduce around 12 weeks if there are any to reduce. Now, here's where I get a little bit sheepish because I obviously have access to it. And if I don't mention it, I'm going to get a lot of comments in the comment section. Okay, where do I get this? And I'm slowly learning my lesson on that. So the topical product I personally use and now give to family members is called Mirror Skin. I don't know that I need it, but I got a bunch of free samples and I think my skin looks pretty good. So anyway, if you want to try this, I really like the formulation because it goes beyond GHK-Cu. It also contains something called oligopeptide 1, also known as epidermal growth factor. This is a cell signaling protein involved in skin regeneration. It was actually discovered by Nobel Prize winner Stanley Cohen and helped win him the Nobel Prize. So maybe some legit science there. Honestly, I think it's pretty thoughtfully designed, and I found it due to external pressures to do homework on the best products for, let's just say, some people I owe favors to, including one who housed me for 9 months inside her body. And yeah, there's a discount code, StayCurious, if you want to try it, 10% off, links below. But this video isn't really about a product, it's about the science, so let's get back to that. I should caution though, if you're going to use GHK-Cu on your skin, there is one simple and very common mistake that completely ruins it for a lot of people. Remember that copper cage we talked about? It's fragile in acid. I already mentioned this. Remember how it goes into the cell and the acidic environment within that little pocket pops open the cage? The thing is, a huge chunk of popular skincare products are acidic. Vitamin C serums, glycolic acid, and exfoliating stuff. Layer those directly on top of your copper peptide, and you can get the cage to crack open. That releases free copper just where you don't want it and wastes the product you paid for. The fix, though, is pretty boring and free. Don't stack them at the same time. Space them out by at least an hour. Okay, but now let's go a level deeper and talk about what happens when the skin isn't just aging but badly broken. Well, let's talk about an extreme example. Doctors tested GHK-Cu gel on diabetic foot ulcers. These are deep chronic wounds, the kind that sometimes end in amputation. The trial was a multi-center randomized placebo-controlled study, the most rigorous setup we've got. And in the GHK-Cu group, wounds closed 3 times faster and infection rates were roughly 5 times lower. Now, I'm not going to show you pictures since I don't think YouTube will actually permit me showing ulcers, but this isn't a subtle skincare tweak. It's a serious result and some of the hardest to heal wounds in all of medicine. So, on the skin, the data for GHK-Cu are surprisingly strong. And if all GHK-Cu did was reduce wrinkles and heal ulcers faster, I'd already think that's impressive. But this is where the story gets even more interesting, because now we're going to go deeper than the skin, into the exciting frontier, the frontier where people are taking real risks and injecting GHK-Cu to act on their whole body. And I actually think there's reasons to be excited here. But let's start where we have published data. For example, researchers studied lung tissue from patients with emphysema. This is a disease where the lung's own scaffolding breaks down and it gets really hard to breathe. What they did is they mapped 127 genes that go in the wrong direction during disease, and they looked for something that could flip the genetic pattern back to healthy. And GHK came up as one of the strongest hits. In the lab, the diseased gene patterns shifted back to healthy when cells were treated with GHK-Cu, and lung cells started producing collagen again. Let me show you an image. These are lung cells from a patient with severe lung disease where collagen breaks down in the lungs, and the cells were treated either with a control or with GHK. And the purple staining represents collagen, and you can see very clearly that GHK restores collagen production in these cells. That's incredible. And it's not a one-off. A separate team studying colon cancer did something similar. They found a 54 gene fingerprint of the disease, screened over 1,000 compounds, and found that GHK dialed back many of the disease's genetic fingerprints by about 70%. Now, I want to be clear. These are lab studies. They're not proving without a shadow of a doubt that GHK-Cu cures emphysema or prevents colon cancer. But this is the exciting frontier of human regenerative medicine. But what about healthy people who just want to optimize healing and aging? Hopefully that's you. It's definitely me. Well, now we are at the frontier of human experimentation. But here's something first you need to know. GHK-Cu not only restores collagen, antioxidants, and cellular energy, it also gets in the deepest compartments of your cells and nudges gene expression patterns towards a more youthful state. Some analyses using large genomic databases suggest GHK-Cu shifts literally thousands of genes involved in aging, repair, and recovery. Some put that number at 31% of the entire human genome being shifted towards a more youthful pattern. So is GHK-Cu a switch or more of a control panel? Open question. I bet you can guess what my opinion is. But now, let's take a deep breath, because here's the honest part. None of this is proof that injecting GHK-Cu treats emphysema or cancer in living humans, or that it reverses 31% of aging. These are gene pattern experiments, and there's an important difference between, say, a blueprint that predicts a bridge will hold and actually driving loaded trucks across it. The point is, I'm not here to sell you magic, nor will I tell you what to put in your body, but I will put it in my own body. And that brings me to my Sapphire experiment. And actually inside this bottle, I lied to you, this isn't just GHK-Cu, but a combination of peptides. It does include GHK-Cu, which is what's giving it that beautiful blue color, so if it was just GHK-Cu, you couldn't tell the difference, but it also contains BPC-157, TB-500, which together are known as the Wolverine stack, and something called KPV. Now, a lot of jargon there, a lot of word salad, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to go on a deep dive about each of these other peptides. However, if you want to learn more, I've linked 4 separate letters, each with a 3,000 word or more highly referenced deep dive on these peptides, which you can find in our best-selling StayCurious Metabolism newsletter below. But at a high level, if you want the TLDR, too long didn't read, think about this cocktail as a combination of complementary healing peptides. The KPV helps calm inflammation. The BPC-157 helps coordinate tissue repair and vascular recovery. The TB-500 helps recruit and mobilize regenerative cells, and the GHK-Cu, as we discussed, appears to promote a more youthful pattern of tissue repair and remodeling. And I'm not old, but I think things start to change around 30. Anyway, you can think of this as kind of a kitchen sink approach to healing, attacking the problem of healing from multiple angles like a coordinated repair and recovery attack. Now, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm not telling you to inject yourself with a peptide cocktail. Everyone has a different risk tolerance, and it's not my place to tell you to do the same. However, before I tell you what happens when I injected myself with this stuff, I hope you'll indulge me if I just sidestep for a moment and be honest with you, level with you, be transparent. I know when I talk about peptides and other frontier therapies, many of you want to know where you can safely access them for yourself, particularly injectables and prescriptions. And that's something I really struggle with because I want to help, not only provide you with science, but get you the tools that I know I want to use, and I want you to be able to do it responsibly. So for months, I've honestly been struggling. I've been looking for a telemedicine partner I trust, not just for me and my family, but potentially for my broader community, for you. And honestly, I did think about building my own company at this time, which could have been immensely profitable, and I seriously considered it. But right now, I really just don't want to dilute my efforts and my time. I want to focus on providing the best educational content I can for you here in written format, in books, which are in process, etc. So I decided on another path. I found a group that I feel comfortable recommending. They're called NOHO Labs.
Welcome to NOHO.
And what impressed me about them wasn't just their clean website and their great user experience, it was the physicians themselves. They were exceptionally attentive, had impressive credentials, great bedside manner, and most importantly to me, they had genuine curiosity about health optimization, peptides, and the frontier of human bioengineering. These were true lifelong learner doctors. And because of all that, I did arrange a friends and family benefits that we're now extending to my StayCurious community. So in the interest of full transparency, if you're looking for peptide doctors, what I use, this is the service I currently recommend. I'll leave more information in the caption. Okay, but now I want to get back on track with my experiment with this. It's actually called a closed stack. I wanted to experiment with this stack simply to see what would happen to my old injuries. And let me tell you why this mattered so much to me personally. When I was 17, I was a marathon runner, and I loved it, and honestly, I was pretty good. At age 17, I ran a 2-hour and 45-minute marathon, and I was the youngest qualifier for the 2014 Boston Marathon, which was the year after the bombings. And then my knee gave out. The injury never really healed. I needed surgery, and even after that, something was always off with this right knee. Scar tissue, inflammation, a knee that consistently reminded me of the stupidity of my youth. I burned too hot too young, and now I can't even run. So now I just wear a compression sleeve on my right knee and avoid certain high-impact exercises like running, and for a long time I just kind of accepted that as a limitation of my body now. But what's happened in the 6 weeks since I started injecting this peptide? For the first time in over a decade, 12 years, I can squat, jump, and lunge without a compression sleeve on my knee, and without that all too familiar twinge of pain and inflammation around my knee.
I haven't been able to do this in years without a knee brace. Sorry for the wind. It feels fantastic.
Now, consider this a humble early observation. I haven't gone out and run another marathon, to be clear. You're catching me at the very beginning of my own self-experiment. But the change I've experienced is real enough that for the first time in years, I caught myself asking a question I never thought I'd ask again. Maybe I can run another marathon. And that is the point. For the first time in years, I have something I haven't had in a long time with respect to that domain of my life. Hope. And ultimately, that is what this video is about. Hope and promise. And truthfully, I don't want to overinflate this. Whether I ever run another marathon again isn't make or break for my quality of life. I love running, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Not the end of the world. But maybe you're trying to heal something yourself that is far more significant. I know a lot of us are. Or maybe you simply want to erase a few wrinkles. Honestly, it doesn't matter what brought you here or what kept you watching to the end, and I genuinely thank you for your attention. What excites me is something much bigger. The possibility that our bodies, mine and yours, retain a greater capacity to heal and age more gracefully than we've been led to believe, and it's not just luck. So whatever aspect of your health you're hoping to improve, my goal isn't to sell you false promises. It's to offer you something much more valuable. Hope. Hope grounded in cutting-edge science. Now tell me, how did I do?